This is the recap video for circles. So, okay, let's start with the definitions again. So, circles, you can basically define them using two things, either the radius or the diameter. The radius is simply the distance from the center of the circle to the edge, and the diameter is the distance from one side of the circle to the other to the center. That's very important. If it doesn't go through the center, for example, a line like this, then that is what we call a chord. But we will not be talking about those right now. Area versus circumference. Area is the size of the surface. So if we have the circle here, then this orange area is the area that that orange bit is the bit that the circle covers. And it's always something squared when in two dimensions. And the circumference is basically just the length of the edge of the circle. So if you were to walk along the edge, how far would you have to walk, basically? So, area. Area you can calculate using two things, either r or so the radius or the diameter, and here on the right you have both equations. And the reason why we use these equations is if we start out with the top one, a equals pi r squared, well, we know that the diameter is the same as 2r. So if we rearrange, this is equation 1, this is equation 2. If we rearrange equation 2, we get, so divide by 2, we get d over 2 equals r. So then we can just replace that into there, and we get a is equal to pi d over 2 squared. Circumference. So in German, this is the Umfang. We can again use both things to calculate it, either the radius or the diameter. And again, if we start with the first one, and we know that d equals 2r, well, we divide by 2, so therefore we get d over 2 equals r. So we get u equals 2 pi d over 2. To make it clearer, let's do this. 2 pi d over 2. When you have a full number, you can always just, and it's multiplication, you can always just move it to the top of the fraction. So now we get 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1, so we just get pi times d. So solving problems, depending on what you need to do, there are different steps. So if you start out with a radius or a diameter, so if that's what you're given, then you can either find the area or the Umfang. Step 1 is to write the equation that you need, so that will be a equals pi r squared, or pi d over 2 squared, or u equals 2 pi r or pi d. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to simplify, so you will replace either r or d depending on what you're given, and then you simplify. And then at the end, if you are asked to give a number as an answer instead of an algebraic expression like, I don't know, 2 pi, if r is 1, for example, then you can use a calculator. If you start out with a or u, and you need to find the radius or the diameter. Well, again, first you start off by writing the equation that you need for either a or u, whichever one you're given, and then you set that equal to whatever number they give you, whatever value they give you. So let's say that they tell you a equals 22.2 like I did yesterday. Well, then you write a equals pi r squared, and then so this is step 1, write the required equations. Step 2 is to set them equal to each other, so 22.2 equals pi r squared. And step 3 is to solve this is wrong, this should say r or d. So the next step is to solve for whatever it is that you're looking for, either the radius or the diameter. And the way you do that is with these 3 rules. If you want to get rid of a fraction, so for example, if you have the bottom of the fraction and you want to get rid of it, you multiply. If you want to get rid of a full number, like pi, you divide. And if you want to get rid of the square, you do square root, and they cancel each other out. So pizza sizes are measured by their diameter. So if you order a 22 centimeter pizza, what does this mean? Well, that means that you ordered a pizza that had a diameter of 22 centimeters. And the question is the area of the 22 centimeter pizza the same as two 12.5 centimeter pizzas? This is basically the question, because they are offering you 2 smaller pizzas for the same price. Well, let's start by calculating the area of the big pizza. So the area of the 22 centimeter pizza is, we have the diameter, so let's use the diameter, pi d over 2 squared. We know that d is 22, so we get pi 22 over 2 squared, which is 484. So we get 484 over 4. So that divided by 4 is 121. So we get 121 pi centimeter squared worth of pizza with one big one. Okay, now let's calculate the area of a small one. So the area of a small one, we are again gonna use the same because we are given the diameter, but this time it's only 12.5 centimeters. So a 12.5 is equal to pi times 0.5 over 2 squared. This is 156.25 over 4, which is around 39.0625 pi centimeter squared worth of pizza. So 2 we multiply this by 2 because we have two 12.5 centimeter pizzas is equal to 78.125 pi centimeters squared. So what do we get from this? Well, we get that it is not a fair exchange for you to get two smaller pizzas instead of one big one. Why? Because two smaller pizzas is 78.125 pi centimeter squared worth of pizza, and the bigger one is 121 pi centimeter squared. So that is a lot more pizza that you get from the bigger one than two smaller ones. So don't accept this trade offer. Okay, the particle collider. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN is a particle accelerator which lies in a tunnel 27 kilometers in circumference. Okay, let's draw that. So U equals 27 kilometers. You are asked to build a cafeteria in the center of the collider. Okay, so this is the cafeteria. How far from the collider is the cafeteria? So they are asking us for this distance. What does this look like? Well, this is the radius. Okay, so we have the Umfang and we need to calculate the radius. So U in terms of radius is 2 pi r. Now we know that this is equal to 27, so 27 equals 2 pi r. Okay, we want to get rid of full numbers, so we divide by 2, get 27 over 2 equals pi r. So 13.5 equals pi r. We divide by pi, we get r equals 13.5 over pi. And then here you can use your calculator to get the actual answer. So, and this is in kilometers. Okay, particle collider question 2. CERN is very happy with the new cafeteria. They now ask you to build a tunnel from one side of the collider to the other that passes through the cafeteria. Okay, so we have our collider here. C is still 27, or I mean U, the Umfang. We have our cafeteria, and they want a tunnel from one side to the other that passes through the cafeteria. So, what does this look like? This looks like the diameter. Okay, so there are two ways to do this. We can do the cheaty way, because in question 1 we already calculated the radius and we know that d is 2r, so that's simply 2 times 13.5 over pi kilometers, which is 27 over pi kilometers. That's sort of the cheaty way of doing this. The proper way to do this is to use the Umfang. So we know Umfang is 27 kilometers, and we know that in terms of radius, it's simply pi times d. And we know that that the Umfang is 27, so 27 is equal to pi times d. Okay. We want to get rid of a full number, so we divide. and then we get d equals 27 over pi. Okay, particle collider 3. Now CERN wants to dig out the collider, so how big is the hole? Okay, so what they want us to calculate is basically the area that this red part covers. Okay, we have a couple options here because we know the umfang, which is 27 kilometers. We know the diameter is 27 over pi kilometers, and we know that the radius is 13.5 over pi kilometers. So we have a couple options. We can calculate the area using any of these three things. So the simplest one, I suppose, would be to use a equals pi r squared. So a is equal to pi times 13.5 over pi squared, which is 182.25. So pi times 182.25 over pi squared. So to make this a little bit simpler, we can move pi up at the top. So 182.25 pi divided by pi squared, which is, so pi minus 1 pi is 182.25 divided by pi kilometers squared. And that's the final answer. So yeah, these are a couple of examples. There is another example or type of question that we didn't go through, which would be to find the diameter given an area. So let's just use this pizza example here. Okay, let's say that we want to find the diameter and we know that the area is 121 pi. Okay, well, we want to find the diameter, so in terms of diameter, the area is pi d over 2 squared. Okay, so step 1 is write out our equation. Step 2 is set the equality, so we know that 121 pi equals pi d over 2, all of it squared. And step 3 is to simplify using some rules. So first let's get rid of these brackets. So this means that this is squared and that is squared. So we have 121 pi equals pi times d squared over 4. Okay, now we want to get rid of the bottom of a fraction, so we multiply. So 4 times 121 pi equals pi d squared. Okay. So now we want to get rid of a full number here. So we divide. So 4 times 121, it's 484. Pi goes away, is equal to d squared, because pi also goes away. Okay, now we want to get rid of the square. So we square root. So then we get d is equal to square root of 484, which is 22. Okay, that is every single type of question that you could get in the exam. And the most important is to remember these rules here. So if you have to find the area or the u, it's easy. You simply write the equation and then you replace r or d depending on what they give you, and you calculate that. And it's a little bit more tricky. It's a little bit more tricky with if you start out with the area or the umfang. Basically what you need to do is you first need to write your equation, then set it equal to what they gave you, and then step 3 is to use these 3 rules. So if you have if you want to get rid of the 4 here, what you need to do is you multiply. If you want to get rid of a whole number, like pi, you need to divide by pi, and you get 1. So basically it just goes away because anything times 1 is the same thing. And if you want to get rid of the square, then you square root. To get rid of the square. And those are all the rules you have to know, and with that you can solve any equation. And these 3 rules don't just apply to circles, they apply to any equality. So if you have something is equal to something, you can use these 3 rules to rearrange it to find whatever it is that you need to find. So yeah, good luck on your test.